years we've been doing this show, and as with most of our annual conferences, we continue to introduce firsts every single year. So this is our first time at this venue. We have added some extra precautions, as that is our responsibility. We have hand sanitizers. We will also be dressing down the rooms. But it's really ultimately up to us as a community to be socially responsible, not only while we're here, but as we travel to and from back to our respective homes.
The key here is just to understand that iPro is growing. We are vibrant. We hired more people last year as a company than we've ever hired in the history of the company. So we're very excited, but ultimately it comes back down to you and your trust. That's why we're growing. People ask us, what are your differentiators? What do you really focus on? And it's flexibility, right? As we look out in this audience, I see a number of you that I know. Some of you are using our desktop products. Some of you are using our trial products. Some of you are using iPro on-prem. And some of you are in our cloud. Some of you use our services. I see all of you represented here. That is our promise to you. We will continue to support those mechanisms, those deployment options for the foreseeable future. Our goal is to meet you where you're at, where your business, where your firm needs now. And if you choose, you're on-prem today, and you want to explore, you want to start moving things into the cloud, it's great. We can absolutely do that with you.
Good morning. It is now day 2 of the iPro Tech Show. Heading over there now. Just checked out of my hotel. But to give a quick recap before I get into the second day, yesterday got to meet a ton of people. I also presented a session with Derek Miller and Shannon Bales, panel discussion on in-house hot seaters versus outside or third-party vendor hot seaters, and kind of the pros, the cons, and ultimately why you really need a good selection of both if you're big enough to require an in-house hot seater. So it's not necessarily an either or decision, but that was a really great session. I was a little bit disappointed because I was hoping that I would get a chance to meet Shannon in person. He's someone that I've been following on LinkedIn and have connected with for a while, but he wasn't able to make it in, so he presented remotely via Zoom. But I still think it went off relatively well for the session. I know that can be really hard for like audiences to watch, like part of it is live and part of it is like a webinar. So I know that's hard, but I think people were relatively patient and understanding given kind of the circumstances that are going on. And I thought it went well. For today, got another day full of sessions that I'm really looking forward to. I'm trying to kind of expand my knowledge of the iPro kind of suite of products. I'm very familiar with the trial presentation stuff, but I want to learn about more of the stuff that they're doing upstream, not necessarily in how I can insert like trial services in there, but just what are they doing, how is it being used, so that way I can understand kind of what I'm walking into when I'm walking into a trial, and how I can help guide people if they have questions about the entire, I guess, circle of trial, presentation, and litigation product.
When we went and started looking at the desktop, we really wanted to look at not just upgrading the user functionality of that or the UI side of things, but we also thought, what are the things that people are asking us? And how do we make sure it's the right workflow? How do we make sure that we are putting the things that people really need? The other piece that kept coming up was around our grid. Can you help us modify the grid? We want to be able to code. We want to be able to, add a date and really start building a chronology. So we brought in a complete new piece to it that was really driving from doing a production to you understanding what was your evidence, and then of course preparing for trial. So whether you go to trial, whether you're preparing for an arbitration, whether you're just doing a presentation, it doesn't matter. You kind of go through the same process, right? Try to identify what are your key documents, what's your evidence, what are the most important, what's your story. And that's really where fact management comes in.
So as we've gone through and have constantly been working on both the desktop and trial director, a lot of the feedback we get, we're trying to implement and do it in a way that's not just a recreation of what's already out there, but rethink the problem. Come out with things that are different. And two of those things that we're working on right now is, based on the feedback, putting presentation back into the work area so that as you're working, you can see what's being presented, be able to go back and forth between the two, preview, present, go back, look, preview, present, and rinse and repeat. We're also trying to come out with things that aren't in existence today. Two of those areas are in the patent area and the expert report area. These two types of litigation generally involve a pretty set, a finite group of documents and ways those documents are formatted. So what we've built is the ability to go in and navigate them quickly and be able to tag different areas of those different types of documents. So with patents, generally falls into figures, columns, and claims. So being able to navigate those three areas of a patent quickly and easily is what that particular feature does. Same thing with an expert report, being able to go in and define paragraphs, subparagraphs, sections, to help navigate quickly and easily through sometimes voluminous documents. So those are the two big things that we're working on right now. As you can see on the screen, the other thing we're doing is when we export video, we want to include the text with it. The majority of the focus that we are working on has to do with performance, because both on the desktop and in trial, it's all about speed. How fast can I process? How fast can I get things done? How fast can I bring up documents? So everything that we're working on every release will have some component of performance. Whether it's multi-threaded indexing and imaging, which allows you to utilize more of the processor and memory. So if you need to increase speed, you can add more memory and exponentially grow your processing power and your output. Right now we're on a cadence of about every 4 months pushing out an update. So we expect to have at least 3 releases this year. We've got one coming out here in April that will have the majority of what we've shown today on there. We've got a release scheduled for the summer and a release scheduled for the fall.
Perfect. Thank you, Derek.
So I am leaving the last session a little bit early. I'm just getting really nervous about stuff with travel back home, and I just got informed that the law school where I teach, we're moving all our classes to remote instruction for the rest of the semester, and I don't know, I just really want to get home. So I really want to get to the airport. I don't want to have to rush, and it's raining. It's been raining for like 2 days straight here in the Arizona desert, so just nothing seems right. But I'm leaving the conference. I did have a really good time at the conference. I do every year, and I think that by far, I mean, it's great to hear about what's new coming down in the pipeline in terms of TD360 and other iPro products, but for me the best part is for sure meeting lots of people, reconnecting with people that I've met in previous years or that I've had the pleasure of working against in trials. So just be able to see those people outside of that context of work and the stress of trial, and just be able to connect with them is always the best part. So I highly recommend coming to this conference, because there's just not another place where I can see as many hot seaters all in one place. So it's kind of unique in that regard. So had a really good time. But now, and on the second day today, I spent most of my time trying to figure out some of iPro's other products, like their Docker View products. Spent a little time looking at case story a little bit further, a lot of the other products that are further upstream than what I normally work on. And I think the direction that iPro as a whole is going is they're trying to push at least a lot of their products and their services earlier in the litigation life cycle. And I think part of that means that more of that's going to go not to hot seaters like me, but more to people that are in-house, paralegals, litigation support staff. So I don't know if that means that my services have to similarly kind of shift earlier upstream, which is something that I've always wanted to do anyway, although I personally am not a huge fan of doing a lot of work in e-discovery. Just very different than the kind of like temperament, pace, and like skill set that I think a person needs to be really good at the trial part. But I think it might be something that I can develop in my company in terms of the people that I have working for me and on my team, and that might be some other services we can develop. So just a lot to think about, a lot of really interesting people and perspectives to kind of be exposed to while I was here. So really great to hear about that. And it's a bummer that the weather was so uncooperative, but it didn't stop us from having a really great conference here this year. And it's definitely one I won't forget for a very, very long time, because it was just a lot of other like extraneous things happening at the same time as the conference. And hopefully it's something that we can all look back fondly on later. But for now, it's just kind of a weird cloud hanging over everything. But now I'm gonna go back to the hotel where my car is, get that car returned, head back to the airport, and hopefully make it back safely to Chicago.